Hello, Year 8. Welcome back. I hope you had a restful half term. We're going to get straight into it and get started with the history work for this week. So the first thing you're going to do on your Microsoft Teams, as always, is go to Teams. Going to click on History Year 8. You're going to go across to Assignments at the top, or it's on the posts as well. Remember, don't do the quiz first, do the actual lesson first. And what we're looking for is week 6, lesson 8, year 8 history. Okay, so go ahead and click on that. And you should find it looks like this. As it says, oh, there's a typo there, clicking is spelled incorrectly. You are going to need to watch 2 videos in this lesson. And the links to those videos are there. Also, when you are filling in the table, you're going to need to read the case studies in a second attached document. So if you look down, you're going to need to have these open as well when it loads. Just thinking about it. Oh well, it's not going to load, but you get the idea. It's because I'm running a video at the same time, which takes up a lot of internet. You get the idea. You're going to need to go and look at those case studies as well to do this assignment. So let's get on with it. You're going to click on Year 8, Week 6, History Summer Term. Now, like always, the screen will show like this. You can't edit this yet. Don't email me saying, I can't edit it, because I know you can't, because you haven't done a step. You need to click on Edit Document. Then you need to click on either Edit in Desktop App. If you've got Word, you can do it on your own computer. Watch my video for how to upload it afterwards. Of course, you could always print it off and do it on paper too, and then upload it by taking a photograph. Or the easier way is to click Edit in Browser. And as you know, it will move things around, but don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. You can still do it, and it goes back to normal afterwards. So, first of all, you are going to need to complete the Quizlet task. Name a Black Tudor and a Black Georgian and describe their story, and then put those events in order along the timeline. Pause the video here. Should take you about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Pause the video, complete the Quizlet task now. Okay, now a Black Tudor who you could have mentioned, there's many, you could have spoken about John Blank, for example, or Diego. Apologies if you can hear noise in the background. There's a building site opposite my flat. Name a Black Georgian. Again, there are loads you could have spoken about. You could have spoken about Francis Barber, for example. And then putting those timelines or time periods in order. The earliest on there is Tudor England. Tudor England was from 1485 with the Battle of Bosworth until 1603 when Elizabeth I died. Next, you should have Stuart Britain. The Stuarts ruled Britain from 1603 until roughly 1714 when the first of the Georgian kings, called George, arrived from Germany. Afterwards, that means you should have the industrial or Georgian Britain from roughly 1714 until 1833-34, I think it's 34, when George IV dies. If you're wondering who takes over afterwards, it's a king called William. And then Victorian Britain should be last. From 1837, William didn't last very long, until 1901, when Queen Victoria I died. Okay, let's put those events in order along the line. Slavery is abolished in the Empire in 1833. The Indian Mutiny was in 1857. The slave trade is abolished in the Empire in 1807. And the Black Battle of Plassey is in 1765. I'm actually just going to go and check that because I can't remember whether that's exactly correct. Bear with me. Good job I checked, thought I was wrong. The Battle of Plassey was in 1757. Okay, you should have put those in order along the line where it says type here. The next thing you're going to need to do is go and watch a video. Now, I put the link obviously in the lesson description, but you can also click on the link here by pressing Control, and you'll see that little finger pointing comes up. Click on that and it will open the video. I've already got it open, so I don't need to do that. The one that you are looking for is this. This one that says Nigel Farage discusses Enoch Powell on Murnaghan. Okay, so you need to go ahead and watch that video, and then you should, from that, be able to decide which of these coloured boxes summarizes the claim that Nigel Farage makes. And really, he's kind of making two claims here, but they're both of them are summarized in one of those coloured boxes. So read the boxes, decide which you think matches what he says in the video, and then type the number of the box where it says type box number here underneath. Should take you about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Pause the video here, complete that task now. Okay, so hopefully you've worked out that actually it's the blue box. Nigel Farage's claim is that there are more people born outside the UK living in the East End, the eastern part of London, than people born inside the UK, and that this is a new thing. This is something that hasn't happened before. It's new. So as it says underneath, we now have one more claim to test. You'll remember before half term we were testing all of Enoch Powell's claims. Today we will study the history of London specifically. This will help us to work out whether Nigel Farage's claim that there are more people born outside the UK living in the East End of London than in the rest of Britain, it will help us to determine whether that's correct and test it. I think a bit of it's cut off there, so apologies for that. Now, once you've done that, we need to be clear on the part of London we're talking about, or rather the part of London Nigel Farage is talking about. And also on what we mean by people living in Britain, born outside the UK. Of course, we mean that is an immigrant, someone who's migrated to Britain. There's a map there that you can see that shows all of the boroughs or areas of London. We're in the borough of Hounslow, which you can see is in far west London. The East End of London includes the following boroughs: Tower Hamlets, Lewisham, Greenwich, and Newham, and Barking and Dagenham. So it says circle in your head, because obviously you can't do that on the screen. In fact, I suppose you could. Actually, yeah, I'll tell you what you're going to do is go into insert. Actually, can we do it on this one? Yeah, I don't think you can because it's online Word and it's weird. So yeah, you're going to have to do it in your head. In your head, find on the map and visualize what East London is. What part of London are we talking about, or what the East End of London is? Pause the video, do that now. Okay, so first of all, we're going to think about Nigel Farage's kind of first claim, that there are more people living in the East End of London born outside the UK than is the average in the rest of the country. In London, the percentage of population born outside the UK is roughly 36%. In the East End, it's slightly higher, about 38%. So thinking back to the video, it told you the percentage of people born outside the UK living in Britain across the whole country. So is it higher in London, is the question. Is Nigel Farage's claim that there is a higher percentage of people born outside the UK in the East End of London correct when you compare it to the rest of the country? Yes or no, you've got 10 seconds to decide. Okay, you should have decided by now. And the correct answer is, of course, yes. And you should there have also underneath type what percentage of people living in the UK does it say were born outside of Britain in the video, on average across the whole of Britain, not just London. I'm not going to give the answer to that because it's in the video. So if you can't remember, go back and watch the video, type the answer in there, pause the video and complete that now. Okay, next job, you need to go and watch my video. So if you follow the link again, you'll see my video here. What I'm doing is just talking about Nigel Farage's second claim that this is something new. Clearly he's right, and there is a higher percentage of people living in London, the East End, born outside of the UK than the rest of the country. But is this something new, is what I'm talking about in that video. Pause the video here, watch that other video now. So, as it says underneath, we're going to spend the rest of this lesson analysing the historical evidence to try to answer the lesson title, How English is London. At the end of the lesson, you'll decide which claim you agree with most. Me, that, yeah, you know what, there is a higher percentage of people living in London born outside of the UK than the rest of the country, but that's not really new. Or Nigel Farage's that actually this is something new and that's not existed in London before. So the next job is to go and look at the historical evidence. Now, to do this, you're going to need to go ahead and open those case studies that I was talking about before of different migrant groups who lived and migrated to and lived in London. The Huguenots, Sephardic Jews, Irish migrants, Eastern European Jews, Italian migrants, and Polish migrants. Now, some of those are about migrant groups who located in East London, but some of them are actually about groups who lived all over London, which might tell us that actually migration to London itself is nothing really new. What I need you to do as you read each case study is first of all record where this group came from and when they migrated. So the Huguenots, for example, they migrated from France. They migrated because they were being persecuted. That means attacked and discriminated against because of their religion, because they were Protestant Christians and France was a Catholic Christian country. And they started migrating in the 17th century and continued right through the 18th century, migrating into the East End of London, Spitalfields. So that's what you're doing in the first column. In the second column, you're going to write traces that this group has left behind and evidence of them living in London. On each of the case studies, you'll see that there's a number of pictures of different traces, things these groups have left behind in our city at the bottom of the page. You need to study those and work out why they tell us these groups did migrate and did live in London. And then you're going to record the evidence that you found for those groups in the second column. And in the final column, there's a space for you to write down any other information that you think is important. Why they migrated, how they lived, what jobs they did. Really, anything you find interesting and don't want to forget, you can write in that final column. So this should take you most of the lesson, about kind of 20 minutes, 25 minutes to do properly. So you're going to need to pause the video here and complete this table task using the case studies now. Oh, and sorry, I should have said, if you finish, there's some challenge tasks on the next page. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to recap Nigel Farage's claim. If you need to, go ahead and watch that video again. Otherwise, type where it says type here what Nigel Farage's claim was. I'm not going to give you the answer because I've given it to you earlier in this video, and you can just go and watch his video again. Pause the video here, write down Nigel Farage's claim now. Once you've done that, you're going to write down evidence which might go against Nigel Farage's claim. For example, you could write down about the different migrant groups who moved to the East End of London, or indeed all over London throughout our history, and what traces they left behind that prove they were there. Once you've done that, you're going to need to decide who you agree with most. My claim that roughly 40% of the people who live in the East End of London were born outside the UK, but that this is not new. Or Nigel Farage's claim that, yeah, there's a large percentage of people born in the East End of, living in the East End of London, born outside the UK, but this is new. Myself, I say it is not new. Nigel Farage says this migration is new. You need to decide who is correct. Now, you might say, well, I'm sort of on the fence here. That's why you've got a line. You can put your X somewhere along the line to show how far you agree. You might, for example, be somewhere here or somewhere here. That's totally fine. Put your X somewhere on the line, along the line, showing your opinion here. And then once you have done that, you're going to, first of all, explain why you put that X in that position where it says type here underneath. And then you can move on to the challenge task where it asks you about the type of evidence that historians might use. Type the number here of what evidence you think they used mostly, what they used the most. And then on the next page, there is a second challenge task that you can get on with. So all of this, if you're just doing the main tasks, should take you at least 5 or 10 minutes. If you're doing the challenge tasks as well, really should take you about 15 minutes. But that's the end of the lesson for this week. So I'll leave you to finish those tasks off.